Vienna Game Traps Part 2. 1. e4. White opens by advancing the king's pawn 2 squares forward to e4. This classical move stakes an early claim on the center and opens sight lines for the light-squared bishop and queen. 1. e5. Black mirrors white's strategy, advancing their king's pawn to e5. This meets white in the center, directly blocking e4 and establishing an equal stake in the board's core territory. 2. Knight c3. White moves their b1 knight to c3, entering the Vienna game. This develops a piece to reinforce e4 while keeping options open for the f-pawn's future movement. 2. Knight c6. Black develops their b8 knight to c6, entering the max-lang defense. This solidifies the e5 pawn and maintains balanced piece development. 3. Bishop c4. White brings the bishop out to c4, aiming straight at black's weak f7 square, the most vulnerable point in black's starting array, defended only by the king. 3. Bishop c5. Black responds in kind by placing their dark-squared bishop on c5, controlling key central squares and targeting white's f2 square. 4. Knight d5. White moves their c3 knight into black's territory at d5. While it looks aggressive, this breaks a fundamental opening rule, moving the same piece twice in the opening without a clear tactical gain. 4. Knight f6. Black calmly develops their g8 knight to f6, attacking white's unguarded e4 pawn while preparing to castle. 5. Knight takes f6 check. White trades off their aggressively placed knight by capturing on f6, putting black in check. However, this trade wastes precious tempos for white. 5. Queen takes f6. Black recaptures with the queen 5. Queen takes f6. This develops black's queen to an ideal square where it threatens a lethal scholar's mate pattern on f2. 6. d3. The blunder. White plays a routine developmental move, freeing the c1 bishop, but completely misses the fatal threat on f2. White needed to play 6. nf3 or 6. qf3 to block the diagonal. 6. Queen takes f2 checkmate. Black strikes. The queen captures on f2, delivered with direct protection from the bishop on c5. With the white king completely trapped on e1 and unable to capture the queen, it is checkmate in just 6 moves. Move 7. A classic lesson in the dangers of early queen hunts. Welcome to a blistering 7-move tactical miniature. Here is how white punished black's over-aggressive play step by step. White kicks off with 1. e4, taking immediate control of the center. Black responds symmetrically with 1. e5, staking an equal claim on the board. White develops with 2. Knight c3, entering the Vienna game. This move keeps central options open while defending e4. Black replies naturally with 2. Knight c6, bringing out a knight to reinforce the center. White activates the light-squared bishop with 3. Bishop c4, directly targeting black's vulnerable f7 square. Black mirrors white with 3. Bishop c5, setting the stage for an explosive tactical clash. White starts the fireworks early with 4. Queen g4, placing instant pressure on black's undefended g7 pawn. Rather than dropping into passive defense, black counterpunches with 4. Queen f6, creating a direct threat against white's f2 pawn. White turns up the heat with 5. Knight d5, leaping into the center to attack black's queen while threatening a devastating fork on c7. Black takes the bait with 5. Queen takes f2 check, grabbing the pawn with check. White calmly steps the king out of danger with 6. King d1. Sensing extreme danger on c7 and f7, black attempts to eliminate white's powerful bishop by playing 6. Knight a5. Finally, white delivers the decisive knockout blow with 7. Knight h3. This move attacks black's exposed queen on f2 directly. The queen is caught in a deadly net. She has no safe square that can defend against the threats on g7 and c7 simultaneously. Faced with the loss of the queen or an immediate checkmating net, black resigned on move 7. A classic lesson in the dangers of early queen hunts. Let's go to the third trap 1. e4. White starts by occupying the center and opening lines for the queen and light-squared bishop. 1 e5. Black responds symmetrically, controlling central squares and freeing their own pieces. 2. Knight c3. The Vienna game. White develops a knight to control d5 without blocking the f-pawn, keeping aggressive options open. 2. Knight c6. Black develops naturally, defending e5 and matching white's central presence. 3. Bishop c4. White targets the weak f7 square, setting an aggressive tone early on. 3. Bishop c5. Black develops the bishop symmetrically, aiming at white's f2 square. 4. Queen g4. An aggressive thrust. White attacks the vulnerable g7 pawn and forces black into an uncomfortable decision. 4. Queen f6. Black defends g7 while counterattacking the weak f2 pawn, threatening a quick checkmate. 5. Knight d5. White ignores the threat on f2 and strikes back. The knight threatens c7, a fork on king and rook, and attacks black's queen. 5. Queen takes f2 check. Black grabs the pawn with check, forcing white's king to move. 6. King d1. White's king safely steps aside. Despite losing castling rights, white's threats against g7 and c7 remain deadly. 6. King d8. Black steps the king out of the nc7 plus fork. 7. Knight h3. White attacks black's queen, forcing it away from defending key central squares. 7. d6. Black tries a trick, counterattacking white's queen with the bishop while ignoring their own queen. 8. Knight takes f2. White eliminates black's queen outright. 8. Bishop takes g4 check. Black recaptures white's queen with check. 9. Knight takes g4. White recaptures black's bishop, leaving white up a full piece with a completely winning position. Black resigns, 1-0. Let's go to the fourth trap 1. e4 then black replies with e5. White starts by claiming the center and opening lines for the bishop and queen. Black responds symmetrically, fighting for control over d4. 2. Knight c3 then black replies knight c6. White enters the Vienna game, developing the knight behind the c-pawn to keep the position flexible. Black develops naturally, defending e5. 3. Bishop c4 then black replies with bishop c5. White targets the weak f7 square. Black responds by placing their bishop on an active diagonal aimed at f2. 4. Queen g4 then black replies with queen f6. White launches an aggressive attack on the g7 pawn. Black counterattacks f2 while defending g7 with the queen. 5. Knight d5 then black replies with queen takes f2 check. White strikes central tactical threats, ignoring the f2 pawn. Black takes the bait, capturing on f2 with check. 6. King d1 then black replies with king f8. White's king sidesteps to d1, perfectly safe despite losing castling rights. Black's king steps to kf8 to guard g7, but gets trapped without shelter. 7. Knight h3 then black replies with queen d4. White develops the knight to kick the queen away from the attack. Black's queen retreats to d4, trying to hold onto active squares. 8. d3 then black replies with bishop b6. White plays d3, solidifying the center while creating lethal trapping threats against the enemy queen. Black retreats the bishop to make room. 9. Rook f1 then black replies with f6. White swings the rook into the kingside attack on the open f-file. Black tries to block the line with f6, but it weakens their king further. 10. Knight takes f6 then black replies with knight takes f6. White blows open the defense with a piece sacrifice on f6. Black captures back, but their protective king cover is blown away. 11. Bishop h6 then black replies with g takes h6. White joins the bishop to the assault, threatening queen g7 checkmate. Black takes the bishop, leaving their king completely exposed. 12. Rook takes f6 check then black replies with king e8. White delivers a sharp check on f6. Black's king flees to e8, isolated and vulnerable. 13. Queen g7. White invades with the queen, threatening both queen takes f8 checkmate and the rook on h8. Facing immediate mate, black resigns. Let's go to the fifth trap move 1. White plays 1. e4. White takes control of the center and opens diagonal paths for the light-squared bishop and queen. Black replies with 1. e5. Black matches white by grabbing equal space in the center. Move 2. White plays 2. Knight c3, the Vienna game. White develops the knight to support the center while keeping the f-pawn free to push later. Black replies with 2. Knight c6. Black develops their knight to defend the e5 pawn and control the d4 square. Move 3. White plays 3. Bishop c4. White targets the weak f7 pawn and develops a key minor piece. Black replies with 3. Bishop c5. Black mirrors White's development, placing their bishop on an active diagonal. Move 4. White plays 4. Queen g4. An aggressive attack targeting Black's undefended g7 pawn. Black replies with 4. Queen f6. Black counterattacks, defending g7 while threatening checkmate on f2. Move 5. White plays 5. Knight d5. White invites the sacrifice on f2 to jump the knight into Black's position, threatening both c7 and the queen. Black replies with 5. Queen takes f2 check. Black takes the gambit pawn, giving check and pushing White's king into the center. Move 6. White plays 6. King d1. The king steps aside safely, leaving Black's queen deep in enemy territory. Black replies with 6. King f8. Black steps out of the fork on c7 and protects the g7 pawn. Move 7. White plays 7. Knight h3. White brings out the knight with tempo, attacking the Black queen on f2. Black replies with 7. Queen d4. The queen retreats while threatening White's bishop on c4. Move 8. White plays 8. d3. White secures the c4 bishop and prepares to trap the Black queen with c3 or b3. Black replies with 8. Knight f6. Black brings out another attacker to try and trade off White's active knight on d5. Move 9. White plays 9. Queen f3. White retreats the queen to safety while keeping pressure on f7 and preparing the trap. Black replies with 9. Knight takes d5. Black removes the dangerous knight from d5. Move 10. White plays 10. c3. White attacks Black's queen, which has no escape squares left on the board. Black resigns. 1-0. Black loses their queen and forfeits the game.